and Horse Guards Parade, the widest open space in London. Prince William, head still bowed. How can one begin to imagine what he's thinking? This the scene of the annual ceremony of Trooping the Colour, which Princess Diana attended. There it is, the widest open space in London. Beyond it, Whitehall. Crowds dashing to catch up. And still so silent. Face of Prince Charles at the back as the cortege approaches Horse Guards Arch. Under the arch, above it, is what was the Duke of Wellington's office. His old desk is still there. And it's the window from which the Queen Mother watches the Trooping the Colour every year. A reassuring pat on the back for Prince William from his grandfather. And the coffin emerges into the sunlight. Extraordinary scenes, absolutely extraordinary. And out into Whitehall to wheel round to the right. Mummy, says the sign. Just Mummy. Applause again from the crowd. Extraordinary. Crossing to the Abbey now, where the Duchess of York is arriving, with the Duke of York being greeted by the Dean, and their two daughters, Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice. One of the royal cars, which has just left Buckingham Palace. Can't see at the moment who's in it. It looks like the Royal Standard. It is the Royal Standard, surely. Yes, the Queen is in the car. And the Queen Mother with her. And the cenotaph. The cortege passes the cenotaph, that great monument to war. None of its lines are vertical. They all curve slightly inwards to draw the eye upwards. Sir Edwin Lutyens designed it. And it has stood in the centre of Whitehall since George V unveiled it shortly after the First World War. The position chosen because this is the widest avenue in Westminster. Princess, of course, would attend the Remembrance Day service at the cenotaph. A little while ago she passed Whitehall Palace on the right as we look at the picture, of which only the banqueting house remains, infamous scene of Prince Charles's execution. King Charles's execution. And it was destroyed when a maid was warming clothes by a brazier and burned it down. And the Queen is now arriving at Westminster Abbey. The great tenor bell of the Abbey is tolling. Dean of Westminster, the new Dean of Westminster, Dr. Wesley Carr, Dean since the beginning of the year. And we might note at this point that Westminster Abbey is in fact the Queen's Church. It's known as a royal peculiar. The Archbishop of Canterbury has no authority in this church. It and St George's Chapel, Windsor, and just a few others are the only ones in the country, and that is why the Dean of Westminster will be officiating, leading today's service, and not the Archbishop of Canterbury, although he will play a part. 97 years of age. Walking unaided after her successful hip operation. Albinone's Adagio. Again, one of Diana's favourite pieces, chosen by her family for the organ to play prior to the service. All the pieces of music that we're hearing before the ceremony, before the service, were personal favourites of Princess Diana and chosen by her family. The organist is Martin Baker, sub-organist of the Abbey. The great west door of the Abbey. The Abbey's been newly renovated. Used to be covered in centuries of grime, but now sparkles in the sunlight. That's the view across Parliament Square to Whitehall, as the cortege approaches its southern side and will come round. Flowers everywhere, all along the edge of the street. Flowers.
Wheeling around now, of course, in front of the Houses of Parliament. The Princess not afraid in recent times to speak out on things, but as she always said, I am a humanitarian, not a politician. And so the cortege draws close to Westminster Abbey for the service due to begin in just about 7 minutes' time.
Said the great tenor bell half muffled with a piece of leather round half of its clapper. Those soldiers in their bearskins will shortly perform the most difficult task of their lives. Members of the 1st Battalion, the Welsh Guards, will bear the coffin into the Abbey. And when the coffin is lifted off the gun carriage, there the gun carriage's duties end and it returns to its barracks in St John's Wood. And the horses, who behaved immaculately. And the men from the Prince of Wales's company, which is the senior company of the 1st Battalion Welsh Guards, specially chosen for this onerous task. They're all over 6 foot tall, all of a similar height, and they've rehearsed this manoeuvre since they came together on Tuesday of this week. At their head, Captain Richard Williams, who won the MC in Cambodia in 1991. They will now bear the coffin of the Princess of Wales into Westminster Abbey. The coffin lined with lead, so heavy, and the eyes of the world are on these men. Entering the Abbey gates, the Dean of Westminster leading. And the chief mourners behind. As London witnessed a more moving sight. Background, Big Ben strikes 11. And as it enters the Great West Door, all will stand for the national anthem. And now the bidding from the Dean, his own words.
We are gathered here in Westminster Abbey to give thanks for the life of Diana, Princess of Wales, to commend her soul to Almighty God, and to seek his comfort for all who mourn. We particularly pray for God's restoring peace and loving presence with her children, the Princes William and Harry, and all her family. In her life, Diana profoundly influenced this nation and the world. Although a princess, she was someone for whom, from afar, we dared to feel affection, and by whom we were all intrigued. She kept company with kings and queens, with princes and presidents, but especially we remember her humane concerns and how she met individuals and made them feel significant. In her death, she commands the sympathy of millions. Whatever our beliefs and faith, let us with thanksgiving remember her life and enjoyment of it. Let us rededicate to God the work of those many charities that she supported. Let us commit ourselves anew to caring for others. And let us offer to him and for his service our own mortality and vulnerability.
And now one of Diana's favourite hymns, I Bow to Thee, My Country, which was sung at her wedding in St Paul's Cathedral in 1981. music of Gustav Holst. Lady Sarah McCorquodale, the eldest of the Spencer sisters, now reads a poem specially chosen for Diana.
If I should die and leave you here a while, be not like others, sore undone, who keep long vigils by the silent dust and weep. For my sake, turn again to life and smile, nerving thy heart and trembling hand to do something to comfort other hearts than thine. Complete these dear unfinished tasks of mine, and I, perchance, may therein comfort you.
And now one of Britain's great sopranos, Lynn Dawson, will sing the aria. Verdi's Requiem.
giudicare se non per veneris, come merittis giudicare se non per veneris, giudicare se giudicare se non per veneris.
And now another poem for Princess Diana, read by her sister, Lady Jane Fellows.
Time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity.
the 23rd Psalm. And now the Prime Minister.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. Love suffereth long, and is kind. Love envieth not, love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Love never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You are the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country, and you whispered to those in pain. Now you belong to heaven, and the stars spell out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile. This torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you've brought us through the years. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. Goodbye, English road, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
A tribute now from Earl Spencer.
I stand before you today, the representative of a family in grief, in a country in mourning, before a world in shock. We are all united, not only in our desire to pay our respects to Diana, but rather in our need to do so. For such was her extraordinary appeal, that the tens of millions of people taking part in this service all over the world, via television and radio, who never actually met her, feel that they too lost someone close to them in the early hours of Sunday morning. It is a more remarkable tribute to Diana than I can ever hope to offer her today. Diana was the very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty. All over the world, she was a symbol of selfless humanity, a standard bearer for the rights of the truly downtrodden, a very British girl who transcended nationality, someone with a natural nobility who was classless, and who proved in the last year that she needed no royal title to continue to generate her particular brand of magic. Today is our chance to say thank you for the way you brightened our lives, even though God granted you but half a life. We will all feel cheated, always, that you were taken from us so young, and yet we must learn to be grateful that you came along at all. Only now you are gone do we truly appreciate what we are now without, and we want you to know that life without you is very, very difficult. We have all despaired at our loss over the past week, and only the strength of the message you gave us through your years of giving has afforded us the strength to move forward. There is a temptation to rush to canonize your memory. There is no need to do so. You stand tall enough as a human being of unique qualities, not to need to be seen as a saint. Indeed, to sanctify your memory would be to miss out on the very core of your being, your wonderfully mischievous sense of humor with a laugh that bent you double, your joy for life transmitted wherever you took your smile and the sparkle in those unforgettable eyes, your boundless energy which you could barely contain. But your greatest gift was your intuition, and it was a gift you used wisely. This is what underpinned all your other wonderful attributes. And if we look to analyze what it was about you that had such a wide appeal, we find it in your instinctive feel for what was really important in all our lives. Without your God-given sensitivity, we would be immersed in greater ignorance at the anguish of AIDS and HIV sufferers, the plight of the homeless, the isolation of lepers, the random destruction of landmines. Diana explained to me once that it was her innermost feelings of suffering that made it possible for her to connect with her constituency of the rejected. And here we come to another truth about her. For all the status, the glamour, the applause, Diana remained throughout a very insecure person at heart, almost childlike in her desire to do good for others so she could release herself from deep feelings of unworthiness, of which her eating disorders were merely a symptom. The world sensed this part of her character and cherished her for her vulnerability, whilst admiring her for her honesty. The last time I saw Diana was on July the 1st, her birthday, in London, when typically she was not taking time to celebrate her special day with friends, but was guest of honor at a fundraising charity evening. She sparkled, of course, but I would rather cherish the days I spent with her in March, when she came to visit me and my children in our home in South Africa. I am proud of the fact that, apart from when she was on public display meeting President Mandela, we managed to contrive to stop the ever-present paparazzi from getting a single picture of her. That meant a lot to her. These were days I will always treasure. It was as if we had been transported back to our childhood, when we spent such an enormous amount of time together, the two youngest in the family. Fundamentally, she hadn't changed at all from the big sister who mothered me as a baby, fought with me at school, and endured those long train journeys between our parents' homes with me at weekends. It is a tribute to her level-headedness and strength that despite the most bizarre life imaginable after her childhood, she remained intact, true to herself. There is no doubt that she was looking for a new direction in her life at this time. She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. I don't think she ever understood why her genuinely good intentions were sneered at by the media, why there appeared to be a permanent quest on their behalf to bring her down. It is baffling. My own and only explanation is that genuine goodness is threatening to those at the opposite end of the moral spectrum. It is a point to remember that of all the ironies about Diana, perhaps the greatest was this: a girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age. She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. And I do this here, Diana, on your behalf. We will not allow them to suffer the anguish that used regularly to drive you to tearful despair. And beyond that, on behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative and loving way in which you are steering these two exceptional young men, so that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned. We fully respect the heritage into which they have both been born, and will always respect and encourage them in their royal role. But we, like you, recognize the need for them to experience as many different aspects of life as possible, to arm them spiritually and emotionally for the years ahead. I know you would have expected nothing less from us. William and Harry, we all care desperately for you today. We're all chewed up with sadness at the loss of a woman who wasn't even our mother. How great your suffering is, we cannot even imagine. I would like to end by thanking God for the small mercies he's shown us at this dreadful time. for taking Diana at her most beautiful and radiant, and when she had joy in her private life. Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman I'm so proud to be able to call my sister, the unique, the complex, the extraordinary and irreplaceable Diana, whose beauty, both internal and external, will never be extinguished from our minds.
We give thanks to God for Diana, Princess of Wales, for her sense of joy and for the way she gave so much to so many people. Lord, we thank